Have you ever been on a project that just felt doomed? You know the feeling, where every single day is a fight against the clock, the budget, the whole shebang. Well, it's a feeling pretty much everyone has had. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on why that happens and maybe, just maybe, look at a really powerful way to fix it.
Right? This is the question. We've all been there, asking ourselves this. It feels like projects are just built to be a struggle. But what if the reasons they fail aren't what we think they are? What if the problem has less to do with the actual work and everything to do with how we think about the work? Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. At its core, there's this massive fundamental conflict. It's this classic tug of war between what we want to achieve with a project and the, limited resources we actually have to do it. Just about every project management headache you've ever had starts right here.
See, every single project forces you to make a choice. You're either time-constrained, meaning that deadline is everything and you'll throw whatever money it takes to hit it, or you're resource-constrained. The budget is locked, the team size is fixed, and if it takes a little longer, so be it. The thing is, you really can't have it both ways.
So let's talk about the one we all know best. That deadline is breathing down your neck. When you're in a flat-out race against time, what's the go-to strategy? It's almost always the same, right? You open up the checkbook.
And there's actually a technical name for this. It's called crashing. It kind of perfectly captures that frantic feeling of just throwing more money or more people at a problem, hoping to make it go away faster. It is a direct, no-nonsense trade-off. You spend more money to buy back time.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. Just look at the numbers. Shaving off a single day bumps up the cost. Trying to shave off 5 days? Well, that sends you skyrocketing to the maximum crash cost. Every single hour you manage to save has a price tag attached to it.
But what about the other side of that coin? What happens when you're resource-constrained, when you can't just hire more people or throw more money at it? Well, this is where the real chaos usually begins. Oh man, we've all seen a chart like this. Or worse, we've been the person on a chart like this. You've got one scriptwriter who's been assigned 80 hours of work in a single 40-hour week. I mean, that's not just optimistic, it is physically impossible. This project is failing before a single word has even been written.
But here's the crucial thing to realize. The 80 hours of work itself, totally manageable, just not all at once. The problem isn't the pile of work, it's the timing. And the logical solution here is a technique called resource leveling, which is all about smoothing out those crazy, impossible peaks in the schedule.
And boom, here's the result. Just by shuffling the schedule around a bit, that same 80 hours of work is now spread across 2 manageable weeks. The scriptwriter can actually breathe, the stress level plummets, and suddenly the project is back on a track that looks like it belongs in reality. Okay, so all of this seems super logical, right? We have tools like crashing for time and resource leveling for people. We should be able to manage this stuff. So why do things still go so spectacularly wrong so often?
This really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we have all these perfectly rational, logical tools at our disposal, why is project failure still so common? Well, it turns out the problem isn't in our spreadsheets. It's not in our charts. The real problem is in our heads.
The physicist turned management guru, Eliyahu Goldratt, absolutely hit the nail on the head with this. He basically said, look, we need to stop blaming our tools and start looking in the mirror at our own behaviors, our own human decisions and practices.
And here is one of the biggest offenders. He called it student syndrome. Think about it. If you give someone 2 weeks to do a task that really only takes 3 days, when does the work actually get done? Usually on day 12 or 13, right? We procrastinate, and in doing so, we burn through all the safety time that was built into the schedule. Sound familiar? So you can see how these little human habits create this massive destructive chain reaction. First, we pad our time estimates to feel safe. Then, student syndrome comes along and eats up all that extra time. Then, even if we do finish early, we probably don't tell anyone. So all that hidden buffer time just vanishes into thin air. And the first person who has a real delay sends a shockwave down the entire project. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of failure.
So, if the problem is human behavior, then the solution has to be designed for human behavior. And this brings us to Goldratt's really revolutionary idea, the critical chain method. It is a system built specifically to break that vicious cycle.
Now, this is a complete paradigm shift. Think about it. Traditional project management is obsessed with managing every single task. The critical chain method asks the totally different question. What if we stopped micromanaging the tasks and instead started managing the one thing everyone is secretly fighting over, this safety buffer?
And here's the core idea in action. On the left, you've got the old way. Everyone hides their own private little safety buffer in their tasks, where it almost always gets wasted. The critical chain approach, on the right, does something radical. It strips out all that hidden padding and pulls it together into one big, transparent, shared project buffer at the end. A buffer that protects the entire project, not just one person's task. And that's where the method gets its name. The critical chain isn't just the longest string of tasks, like in a traditional critical path. It's the longest path that also accounts for the messy reality of limited resources. It acknowledges that you can't have your scriptwriter working on two big things at once. In other words, it's a plan based on reality. So how does it all come together? Well, you reduce those padded estimates, forcing people to focus. You build the whole schedule around your most constrained resource, your bottleneck. You use that shared buffer at the end to absorb any real-world delays that pop up. And maybe most importantly, you shift the entire team's focus away from protecting their own little task deadlines to protecting the one deadline that actually matters, the project's final due date.
Ultimately, it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. We are so obsessed with schedules, deadlines, and working harder, but maybe we've been focused on the wrong thing all along. What if the real secret to getting things done on time isn't about hustle or cracking the whip, but about working smarter by completely changing how we think about safety, uncertainty, and time itself?